How come a boy who gets punched, kicked, and even bullied every single day unlocks a cheat skill where he levels up every day by defeating monsters in another world? And with his single hand, he wipes out an entire gang of school thugs without even trying. Watch how this absolute weakling transforms into a completely unstoppable legend. Let's get started. After countless years of suffering and humiliation for his disgusting body, Yuya accidentally entered a secret world with a leveling system to transfer all of his items and cheat skills to the real world. His family would abuse him as a child, and even when he saw a hot girl getting harassed by a group of men and tried standing up for her, the leader called him an ugly, pathetic fat ass and beat him down until the police arrived. But although the girl tried helping him up, he pretended as if he was fine and began walking away. This was the miserable life he'd become used to living, because just like the graffiti on his home calling him repulsive, all the other kids bullied him at school, and even his own parents abused him for being uglier than his siblings. But when he got to middle school, the abuse escalated even more, and the only person who ever cared about him, his grandfather, died that year. The only thing the senile man had left for Yuya was his house, but when his parents failed at stealing it away from him, they abandoned him, forcing him to work part-time jobs for the rest of his life. And so the years went on, until the day of his middle school graduation, because while everyone celebrated, his yearbook had the words, "Jump off a cliff and hug the ground." So when he tried running away, his bullies caught up to him, beating him up in front of all of his classmates, and even his siblings enjoyed seeing his fat ass getting beat up. By the time he got to his job, his boss fired him for being late, so with the last of his money, the only thing he could afford to eat was ramen. His cold reflection stared back at him, the same ugly fat man that he saw in the mirror, wondering how anything would ever change even after his graduation. But as he punched the wall once again, a secret door opened to a dark room, making him wonder if this was where his grandfather hid his souvenirs. However, he decided to open the mysterious door in front of him. But after walking inside, a system message appeared before his eyes, telling him that he has entered another world. And as more menus flashed open, he saw that he had gained the conversion ability, making him realize that he was in a video game, and wondered if he had the highest levels in all of his stats. Even so, the worthless fatso looked outside his window, seeing that he truly was in another world. However, as he saw all the weapons, he picked up the legendary ominous sword and decided to go outside to try it. But as he nearly isekai'd himself again, he gained level 1 swordsmanship. But the sword wasn't enough, so he decided to overcompensate by holding an actual long lance, become the Grim Reaper, erase half the Earth's population, and even wield the bow to become the bone of his sword. After trying the weapons, he realized they were all gone tier items, but he was still level 1 and had no idea how to increase his level. However, while he was putting the weapons away, a massive beast began rushing towards him, but the barrier was able to hold off the level 300 bloody ogre. As it began picking up a tree to smash towards him, the gate nullified the attack, so Yuya realized that he needed to try using his lance before the ogre broke through. Throwing it with all of his power, the spear ripped straight through the monster's core, killing it in that instant. Once the monster disintegrated and left behind legendary items, the system leveled him up to 100. However, his mana was drained, so he decided to head back home. But the system asked him to convert his legendary items into money, giving him $15,000. But that wasn't the end, because while he slept that night, the neurons inside of his muscles activated, transforming every inch of his body. When he woke up, he realized that he now had a ripped six-pack, and even his Asian persuasion was replaced with Tyrone's Punisher, making him realize that his body was now different. However, he was glad the mirror was broken, because he didn't want to see his disgusting face anyway. But with none of his clothes fitting, he put on the mystical outfit in the Said's house, since they adjusted to fit him perfectly. As he walked outside, he saw that his garden was filled with legendary class plants. But before he could water them, a hell slime appeared that was level 200, so Yuya activated his item box to release his god spear, killing the monster with a single strike. Among the common loot items, he found an epic rarity necklace that converted sunlight into mana, and had already reached level 150. Throughout the weeks, he began growing his garden while learning about this mysterious world, and trained every single day as he started forgetting about his depression. But while he was walking around the fields one night, he blocked an elite goblin before he would attack him, and leaped into the sky to knock it away, before infusing his lance with his mana to rip the goblin's head off. As the sun was setting, he realized that leveling up was getting harder, but no matter how strong he got in this world, he knew that tomorrow would be hell when school started all over again. So after converting the goblin's drops into $5,000, he decided to buy a new school uniform. And all the girls thought he was the hottest man alive. Even his sister wanted to taste his sword. Once he sat down in his seat, his bullies approached him and thought he was a transfer student, but he revealed that he was actually Yuya. As they wondered how he was the same pig they bullied, he decided to run to the bathroom, realizing that he now had the hottest face in this school. Once the day was over, his siblings wondered how their worthless fat-ass brother became so tall and skinny. But a limousine appeared, and a girl with red eyes came out, glad that she's finally found him. She revealed that she's been looking for him since the men bullied her because she wants to suck his dick. Sorry, I meant she wanted to thank him, and has personally investigated him to track down his location, and the amount of sperm cells inside of him at a given time. What the fuck? She goes on to ask him if he wants to join Alsei Academy, and when Yuya realized she's referring to the best academy in Japan, she introduces herself as Kaori, and reveals that her father is the chairman of the school. But when Yuya thought that he was too brain-dead for that academy, his siblings went on to say that they're better than him in every way. However, Kaori rejected the idea of ever inviting such disgusting beings to her school. After all, she investigated the way they bullied their brother throughout the years. Hearing those words crushed them, but Kaori went on to grab him into her car, while his siblings realized they needed to kill their brother. Inside of Alsei Academy, everyone was considered to be a genius, and when Yuya went on to meet the principal, Tsukasa thanked him for saving his daughter. So because of his bravery, the principal revealed that he would be paying his tuition. But although Yuya thought he was too dumb, Tsukasa asked him to try attending for a single day first, and went on to bring out the really big guns. The school's biggest milkers entered the room, saying that she would be his anatomy teacher, and would give him a hands-on lesson. Yuya thinks this is the best day of his life. He waits outside of her class and wonders how he's going to develop plot with his teacher in front of all of the students. He worries that all the guys might get angry, but if they all run a train on the teacher together, then it should be fine. The teacher tells Yuya to come inside already. Yuya climaxes inside his pants, and while introducing himself, he does everything in his power to hide the stain he created. All the students have noticed the stain, however, and Yuya realizes it's already over for him. However, all the girls think they want to taste his white cream, and even the guy decides to swing the other way for a day. What the f is going on right now? The teacher gets clapped. Sorry, I meant the teacher claps her hands, and tells Yuya to sit already so they can begin class. After sitting in the back, the girl next to him shared her book, but when he heard her cold attitude, he wondered if his stain was really this noticeable. At the same time, Kaori wondered if Yuya would fit in with everyone. And as the lessons went on, Yuya realized that this was the first time students cared more about learning than bullying him. When classes were over, all the chicks wondered if he was an idol or if he had a girlfriend, but a guy called Rio asked them to leave him alone, and went on to take him to the cafeteria. At this school, all the meals are made by world-class chefs for free, so of course the fat ass thought this was paradise. After getting their meals, they went to sit with this worthless waste of space called Shingo. But when Ryo started talking about the new anime he's watching, Yuya realized they were just like him. However, Shingo revealed that they're also part of the gaming club, shocking Yuya as he's never been allowed to bring his phone to school. But Shingo revealed that teachers didn't care since no one used them in class. Just then, Yuya realized that all the other students were staring at him, and wondered if it was because of his uniform. But Ryo invited him to play video games with them. Once the day was over, Tsukasa asked him if he would like to join their school. So realizing that this was the first time his classmates didn't bully him, but instead were kind while actually caring about learning, Yuya begged him to continue attending. After leaving the room, Kaori was glad that he chose to stay by her side, but asked him if he would like to go out with her. So as they walked around the school shops, Yuya wondered if she came to hang out with her friends here, but she revealed that she never had any friends. Everyone would avoid her because her father was the principal, so Yuya was the first person she's ever went out with. Hearing those words made him nervous, so he tried to ask her to eat some of the ice cream. Glad that he's been converting his drops so he could afford it. As she began swallowing his cream, she was happy that she got to spend her night with him. But he realized that eating more would cause him to go back to being an ugly fatso. Just then, he wondered how she knew it was him, even though he was skinnier now. But Kaori said that she could never forget his kind, honest eyes. However, she asked him to call her by her first name. So after he said the word Kaori, she smiled at him and offered him a piece of her ice cream. But after eating her strawberry cream pie, she realized that they just indirectly kissed and got embarrassed. But he offered to give her some of his cream, and all the girls thought they were the cutest couple alive. After Kaori swallowed all of his liquid, Yuya went to the other world to continue his leveling. But even with his full set of armor, he was still afraid of the monsters. However, he was able to defeat them with a single strike, but realized that he hasn't been able to get past level 235 for the last few days. The only way for him to get stronger was to venture outside of his fence. So as he thought of his day at school, he took his first step outside, ready to face his new challenge. However, he heard the sound of people screaming, so he unleashed his spear and began running towards the sound. Seeing that tens of soldiers were killed with their bodies on the ground, and in the distance, a massive level 200 ogre general was about to kill a hot girl, so he rushed forward and launched his spear. But although the ogre parried it, Yuya leapt from the sky to crush his face down, ending his life with a single strike. As he tried approaching the girl, she screamed at him to watch out from behind, as a massive goblin struck down and launched him against a tree before he could notice. As his consciousness began fading, he realized that it was faster and stronger than him, but he knew that he was the only guy who could save this girl. So he rushed forward and pole vaulted over the goblin, before summoning his bow to unleash a barrage of arrows. In that instant, he summoned the Omni Sword and began sprinting towards the goblin, slashing it in half before it could react. As he approached the girl to make sure she was alright, she passed out. The next morning, Yuya wonders if that girl was alright after he left, but knows that the rest of the soldiers came to save her. While ironing his shirt, he realizes that he's been wearing the same Peter Griffin shirt every single day, so he decides to go shopping now that he's rich with all the drops. At the mall, Yuya takes the escalator and all the girls stare at him. He continues walking around and notices everyone eyeing him, so he tries to run to quickly take care of things. On the other side of the mall, a photo shoot manager was screaming because he's been waiting all morning for the boy model, so he decided to look for a random hot boy to be Miu's boyfriend instead. At the store, Yuya's noticed he's never bought clothes in years and thinks it's a lost cause. Two girls approach him and ask him if he could develop plot with them at the same time. Yuya wondered what type of story they were talking about, so they revealed that they wanted him to write a novel on their faces with the ink coming out of his pen. But Yuya apologizes because he's not interested in their religion and wants to remain an anime protagonist. He leaves and wonders if he treated them right, but both of them have already climaxed. As he heads down, the manager sees Yuya and thinks he's found the man of his dreams. He comes behind him and grabs him to start taking photos with the model. Yuya wonders how things ended up this way, and remembers the manager explaining the whole situation to him. He spends his entire afternoon doing the photo shoot with Miu, but being so close next to a girl gives him a hard time in more ways than one. Miu realizes and tells him that she'll take care of him since it's his first time, so she gets on her knees and sorry, I meant she thanked him for saving her, and Yuya finally sees the giant cannons pushing up on him. The manager tells them to change positions, and Yuya realizes that Miu is amazing. She's the same age as him, but she's been working so hard so he knows that he can't be a burden on her. Miu comes closer to him and grabs him, giving Yuya a really hard time. She hugs onto Yuya and engages her laser blasters at full throttle, making Yuya climax for the 40th time today. This poor dude's going to have a heart attack. Meanwhile, in the other world, the girl wonders who the man who saved her was and becomes determined to uncover his identity. She tells the guards that she's going into the forest to find the person who saved her. Back at the mall, everyone is watching Yuya as he does the modeling, and as they keep talking, the manager takes photos to capture a realistic version of a couple. However, a man comes from the crowd, and all the girls recognize him instantly. His name is Shu, and everyone thinks he's the hottest guy alive. He's the guy who was supposed to do the photo shoot with Miu, and he gets down and tells her to wrap up this silly photo shoot quickly so they could go on a date. Miu tells him to wait, but he bangs against the wall and asks her why she ignored him the other day in public. Yuya tries to step in and tells him to get off Miu. Shu is angered that Yuya is interfering and steps on the plot armor. You're That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's there, mate. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT. Yuya's inhuman speed allowed him to react just in time and throw him over, but he's realized that everyone will likely start yelling at him for beating up the hot guy. However, the girls basically become Niagara Falls for Yuya and think that Shu is lame. The manager comes up to Shu, telling him that they caught the entire thing on tape and will release it to everyone if he continues to bother Miu. He runs away, and the manager is glad that he was able to get rid of him as he's been constantly causing Miu trouble. Since he's gone now, the manager offers Yuya to take his position since he's such a great model, but Yuya apologizes. He's enjoyed every bit of today, but has realized that he could never be a model with all of the dedication it takes. The manager respects his honesty and responsibility, so he hands him his payment for today. Since he's not their employee and they can't pay him with cash, the manager hand-picked him clothes that would look amazing on him. Inside the manager's car, Miu reminisces on her events today and all the photos she took with him, and the manager makes fun of her for crushing over Yuya. Back in the other world, Yuya is glad to have gotten all the clothes to dress like a real Chad, but decides it's time to train once more. Inside the forest, the soldiers are once again battling for their lives, and a giant orc comes from behind ready to end the princess. In the last moment, Yuya destroys the monster and saves her, and goes on to destroy every single enemy in his way in the most Giga Chad manner. After he's defeated all the enemies, Yuya heals the fallen soldiers and the princess comes up to him. She says that she's traveled all this way because she wants to say something to him. Just like a star, get going stick the guy. Hi, Her guards warn her to keep her position in mind since this guy could be a bandit for all they know, but she yells at them and says it was love at first sight. Yuya has no idea what any of these guys are taking, so he asks them to come over to his house. While going inside, the guard is surprised he can live inside the forest somehow, and introduces himself as Owen. The girl finally introduces herself. She's the princess of the kingdom of Arcelia, and her name is Lexia. Yuya realizes that she's an actual princess, and the guard wonders what country Yuya might be from. The guard thinks he might be a spy, but Lexia thinks he's a royal, so he's going to be royally clapping her clapping her hands, I meant hands. The guard is jealous that he's been defeated, but tells Yuya that they've been looking for him this entire time. Since he rescued Lexia from nearly dying, she hasn't left a single log unturned just to find him, and has been doing everything in her power to feel his rough love. She begs him to marry her, but Yuya wouldn't want to suddenly marry a girl he's just met. Lexia understands that their love can't be so simple. After all, every romance novel has these challenges. Falling in love right away wouldn't be fun, she determines, so she asks him if he would like to just be friends for now. Yuya remembers all the times he'd wished for a friend, so he looks at her eyes and humbly accepts to be her friend. Owen is glad they were able to convey their gratitude, but there is one other matter. While Lexia's carriage was being taken away by the horses, she screamed that she will be waiting until the next time they meet. Before leaving, Owen informed Yuya that the king has invited him to his castle, so they will gladly wait until the day he's ready. Back inside the kingdom, a glass falls and breaks, and a bandit apologizes for not being able to assassinate the princess. The assassins he sent were all devoured by powerful monsters, but his leader wonders how Lexi is still alive if that was the case. The leader commands the bandit to try once more without failure. After he left, the leader took off his mask, swearing to take revenge for the damage Lexi has done to him. Inside of his home, Yuya writes down the day from meeting the king and realizes that today is the first day at his academy. He leaves the house and two girls think he's hot. On his way to school, everyone glares at his beauty and makes it difficult for him to blend it. The principal formally welcomes him to the school and tells him to enjoy his life here. Anatomy class is about to begin once again, but Yuya manages to keep it inside this time. During soccer, Ryo outclasses all the players on the field as he scores an incredible goal. Yuya is amazed by his pure skill, and a girl from behind thinks that Ryo's abilities are also amazing, but she asks Yuya if he's just watching alone. She introduces herself as Kaede, and Yuya has no idea what harem he's been reincarnated into. Ryo dribbles the ball past the players and passes it to Akira, who rushes forward to try and score the goal, but as he takes a shot, he completely misses and it heads towards Kaede's face. In an instant, Yuya graduates from Blue Lock and uses his supreme agility to shoot the ball from a tight angle and score the goal. All of the players are shocked, and he gets up like Prince Charming and approaches Kaede. He asks her if she's okay and offers his hand. She holds it and Akira comes begging for an apology, but Kaede tells him that she's fine because of Yuya. Ryo introduces Akira to him, and Akira thanks Yuya for saving both of them. Ryo calls him a cringe for begging Kaede to forgive him, and as they continue making fun of each other, Yuya starts laughing along with Kaede. Inside the plot armory, the girls think that Yuya is some secretive prince, and Kaori comes to ask what he did this time. Kaede comes to tell Kaori that Yuya jumped in midair and bent over to kick his ball into her face while she's bent over. Kaori wonders what this girl is taking, and Yukin says that she can hook her up if she ever wants to take a trip. All the girls geek out over how cool Yuya is and wonder if he's got a girlfriend. Kaori and Kaede both scream that he doesn't have one. But after screaming that, Kaori is shocked because she's recognized her feelings for him. During class, Yuya stares outside the window and sees Kaori waving at him, so he waves back. But just then, a group of bikers break through the gate and begin scaring all of the girls. Among them are Yuya's siblings, and they brought all the bikers here so they could mess Kaori up since she looked down on them. The leader commands the guys to grab her and go away, and Yuya realizes how bad this situation is and tries to save her. However, his legs tremble in fear. He may have fought stronger beasts in the other world, but the idea of going against his brother and sister sends fear into every bone in his body. The world begins twisting around him, but instead of faltering, he slaps his face to regain his cool and tells everyone he's going. He opens the window and jumps out. As soon as he lands, he rushes with blinding speed towards Araki, the person who bullied him his entire life. Araki commands the rest of his group to take care of him, but with blinding speed, Yuya dodges every single one of their attacks and knocks all their weapons away. Araki tries to take matters into his own hand, but just before the bat hits him, he flashes away to save Kaori. Before he could reach her, a giant sumo wrestler stands in his way and jumps towards Yuya. However, Yuya maintains his position and stops him from moving with just his bare hand, casting him like he's a mere toy. The rest of the delinquents walk away from him in fear, but before he could save Kaori, one of them readies up their bike and tries to run him over. Yuya evades the attacks and narrowly dodges the wheels, and as all hope seems to be lost, he jumps 30 feet into the sky like Spider-Man, leaving the biker to run into the building and explode his bicycle. The police finally arrive and arrest all of the delinquents. Yuya asks Kaori if she's okay after all that happened. She thanks him and says she's fine but begins fainting, so he hugs her close to make sure she's okay. Yuya's brother wonders how the red ogres were so useless, but their leader holds him by the neck and says he will end him for trapping them. His sister tries to stop him, but he kicks her off and she watches as her brother is begging for someone to help him. Yuya grabs onto the leader's arm and pushes him off, but the leader runs to beat up Yuya. With a single glance, Yuya sends the fear of God into every bone in his body, and everyone wonders how he just collapsed, while all the delinquents are being taken away. His brother wonders why he saved them after they've tormented him so much. Yuya says he can't forgive them for all the things they've done to him, but he will never abandon his family. Hearing those words crushes them, and they begin crying as they apologize to him, and Kaori watches all of it. A few days later, Yuya is ready to go out exploring once more. He remembers Owen warning him about the forest being the most dangerous place in all of the lands. The monsters lurking here have the ability to level an entire city, confusing Yuya about why the sage chose to live here. He spent his time hunting through the forest as always, but as he was about to leave, he heard a little puppy's bark. A giant orc was beating it up with a stick and the puppy did everything it could to continue standing up. It was a level 600 king orc with an attack of 20,000, so Yuya decided it was too dangerous for him to try saving the puppy. The king orc continued stomping on the little puppy, and Yuya realized that his grandpa would have never left in this situation. He took out his spear from the void box and launched it to distract the orc, immediately rushing to attack it. However, the orc was already destroyed by his spear. He's embarrassed for being such a wuss, but remembers that he was able to defeat a level 300 ogre when he was just level 1, so he wonders who this sage was that created such powerful weapons. The puppy growls at him in fear, but Yuya takes out a healing potion and gives it to the dog after it collapses. All of the wounds are healed, and Yuya is glad to have saved it before it perished. The little dog starts licking him and Yuya asks him if he's lost. The dog nods his head no, so Yuya asks him if his parents are gone, and the dog sadly responds. Yuya goes on to ask if he would like to come to his place, and the dog gets excited and barks happily. A status window appears, and Yuya sees that the dog is level 500 with all stats at 10,000. Even though he's shocked, he decided to give a name to the little dog, and because of its dark fur, he names it Night, and the dog barks happily to hear its new name. Among all the rare equipment that were dropped, Yuya sees a hairbrush that is considered a daily necessity item, and begins brushing Night with it. While brushing his new puppy, he checks the status window and notices that his level hasn't went up still. He leaves his puppy the next day and tells his friends that he's going to a pet shop. Kaede bends over the table and engages her laser blasters in his face. Yuya climaxes and tells her that she's rubbing him the wrong way. Kaede backs off and says that she could go to the pet store with him since she's free after school. This is the second time anyone's wanted to go out with him, and Kaede wonders if this would be considered a date. After a long day, Yuya finally gets back home to a sad Night, but he shows him all the gifts he brought him. He spent all afternoon picking them out with a friend so Night can have a nice leash when they take walks. He wonders if it's uncomfortable, but Night nods his head no, so they both go out in a walk. The girls are still opening all their floodgates when they see him, and as he walks, he stumbles on Kaori at the park. She sees his dog, and Yuya introduces Night as a new part of his family. Kaori asks to pet him and thinks that he's the cutest dog she's ever seen. She wonders what breed he is, but Yuya panics since he just brought him home from the wilderness. Even though he may be wild, she realizes that Night is an extremely smart dog, but a girl comes from behind and calls out Yuya's name. A wild Mew has appeared. Kaori wonders if she's the famous model, and Yuya's shadow introduces Mew to Kaori. Night jumps up and barks hello, and all the people in the park are jealous of the attention he's getting. Mew asks him if he's going to keep taking walks here because she wants to keep seeing him. Kaori hears their conversation, then the sadness inside of her continues growing. Mew eventually leaves and Kaori tries to ask if him and Mew are dating